Versace is a failed brand and Donatella and the Versace family are to blame. A really bold statement by me. Let's hope I can back it up with some facts. Now I'm even scared. When I do talk badly about someone in today's video though, I am only attacking their bad decisions, bad designs, bad business strategies. I have nothing against them as human beings. I'm sure they're great people. I don't care about them personally. I only want to talk about how they made a once great brand to debt-ridden brand to being sold to Michael Kors now renaming Capri Holding, wanted to sell them to Prada. All of this happened after the passing of Gianni Versace in 1997. I wasn't aware of the firing of Donatella until my wife sent me an article about it. That's how much I don't care about Versace. Versace should be tier 1. It should be talked about with the likes of Chanel, LV, Gucci, but it's not. Gianni had set the company up so well until he was unfortunately assassinated in 1997. Anyway, I had always wondered how Donatella stayed there for so long as creative director. And because Versace hasn't set any trends in forever, and I don't think their sales number are doing that great because I do periodically check in here and there. And then of course I'm only talking about menswear. I don't really look at women's wear. I'm aware of a few women's collection prior to researching this video, but not a lot. I've seen them join trends, the chunky sneaker from Balenciaga, the logo mania from Gucci under Makasy. I've never seen them set a trend that other brands have followed because they see money to be made. The last time Versace made it into the news that I saw and click and read was Michael Kors bought them, and now when Donatella has been ousted. Never about clothes. Actually, okay, change that. I saw them one other time when J-Lo walked the runway with her iconic dress from the early 2000s in 2019. Even that, it wasn't about the dress, it was about J-Lo wearing the dress and the lore of the Google image search being born from this. Great dress, sure, but I believe it was more about J-Lo than the dress. We have to remember that at the time, it was all about skinny cocaine looks on the runway models, and then you see a thick Latina woman with curves wearing a dress off the runway, and the dress is so minimal you can see her whole body essentially. So the hype was on the body, not the dress. J-Lo had all the cachet in the early 2000s. She just did Selena in 1997. People know of her, people are interested in her, people are interested in her relationships. If it was about the dress, it would or should have gotten attention straight away when it debuted on the runway where the model Amber Valletta walked the runways. Spice Girl Jerry wore it to the NRJ Music Award in France. Nothing. Now that was 1 month before J-Lo wore it. It didn't go viral. Donatella wore it before J-Lo. Didn't go viral. Did I prove my point yet? My hypothesis, poor outdated designs made the brand struggle on the business side after the death of Gianni. Family-owned brand made it harder for executives from the business side to implement long-term plan. Allegra, Donatella, and Santo made it harder. We'll talk about who owns Versace right after the death of Gianni soon. Donatella is not a great creative director. She relies too much on her brother's designs, and then they've just been regurgitating the same design over and over again, the same aesthetic. The brand has been stuck in this loop of Medusa logo, Baroque prints, nightclub dresses, red carpet dresses, which doesn't sell well because not everyone attends red carpets. I'm sure it's great to dress celebrities, but why would a normal, regular person buy these expensive dresses? You know what I mean? Oh, and of course, sex appeal of Versace. Fashion has evolved a lot since Gianni's passing. People, women specifically, has evolved. They don't want to be wearing exposed nightclub-looking dresses anymore, at least not all the time. They once did in the 80s and 90s, not anymore. They want a more refined, a more sophisticated, low-key, minimal aesthetic. Think Jill Sander, Helmut Lang, Margiela, The Row, Chloe under Phoebe Philo. That was the aesthetic that was popular and that was like selling in the early 2000s. Fashion has shifted away from the sex appeal and logo-driven looks to minimal and back to logo mania, and now back to somewhat more understated, and Versace still hasn't innovated past the original looks that Gianni came up with for the brand. Logo mania in the early 2000s and in the 2010s should have been golden opportunity for Versace to take a larger slice of the pie, yet they fail. Balenciaga, Vetements, Gucci took that from them. What is bigger than a fucking Medusa head as a logo? They should have won this battle of logo mania. You can hire the best CEO, the best marketing firm, the best consulting firm, but if the product is bad, you're not going anywhere. People see Steve Jobs as a great marketer. He would not have been able to salvage Versace. If Donatella never innovate, if she keeps relying on the design element that her brother did in the 1980s. Fashion constantly shifts. In the early 2000s, Helmut Lang, Ralph Lauren started to make more subtle product. Minimalism was in, and then boom, you see Versace with all the Baroque print, loud Medusa head, nightclub sexy dresses. It doesn't fit. One could argue that, well, Versace did its own thing and refused to participate in trends, but there is a difference between staying true to your DNA and being stuck in the past. Ralph Lauren, Helmut Lang, Margiela, Chloe exist outside of the trend. They set the trends. Versace hasn't set the trend in a long time or ever, because initially the style of Versace was just something that you don't see from Armani and every other, Italian fashion brand at the time. So it was a shock to the system. So they didn't set any trend. They just shocked the system. Versace, like Gucci and Louis Vuitton, needs to evolve or shift with the fashion landscape to stay relevant, and it never did. This intro got a bit out of hand. Let's get into the timeline now. We're going to skip the golden era, by the way. I want to focus on the downfall of Versace. 1972, Gianni Versace designed his first collection for Callahan, Kenny, and Compile. In 1976, Santos, the brother of Gianni, joined Gianni in Milan. From 78 to 93, success after success. 1993, Donatella added the Young Versace and Versus line, the fusion lines. Big mistakes in my opinion. It will come back to bite them in the ass. Newsweek, Dana Thomas, 2009. In 1993, however, Gianni was diagnosed with a rare cancer in the left inner ear. Before Gianni's illness, Donatella handled fashion details such as the model's look, the music, and the famous front row celebrities for the show. But during Gianni's 2 years of treatment, Donatella oversaw the design team. When Gianni returned to work, Donatella balked. She loved the power she wielded in the studio and admitted it was hard to give up. Their fights in their local Calabrian dialects were epic, according to witnesses. At one point, the pair didn't speak to each other for several months. In the spring of 97, friends said Gianni exploded. "Enough," he shouted at Donatella. "I have decided we would do things differently. I don't want to do this anymore." The quote helped show that Donatella likes power and doesn't like it when other people try to take it away from her, even if it's her brother. This is a recurring pattern, by the way. We'll talk more. 5 days after that, in fact, what Gianni wanted to do was get Versace out of his family's hands and list it on the stock market. By mid-1997, analysts valued the company at $1 billion, putting it alongside mega brands such as Giorgio Armani and Ralph Lauren. After Paris Couture Week in July, Gianni flew to New York to meet Morgan Stanley bankers to plan the IPO. Afterward, he reported scribbled on the margin of the contract, "It has been fun. It will always be fun. We'll see you in the fall to set the issue price." In 97, however, Gianni got shot by Andrew Cunanan, I don't care about his name, he's a shooter, on the front step of his South Beach home. Donatella became creative director, Santo became CEO. According to a WWE article, Versace shareholders include Allegra Versace Beck owns 50%, Donatella owns 20%, Santo Versace owns 30%. Should be noted at the time of Gianni's passing, Allegra wasn't 18 yet, so she got the 15% when she turned 18 in 2004. So we can best assume that Donatella and Santos controlled it on her behalf until 2004. Almost immediately, meaning 1997 after Gianni's passing, Donatella began dismantling all that Gianni had built. Many of Gianni's long-term employees left the company, replaced by young assistants. Donatella sacked legendary fashion photographer Richard Avedon, who had shot the Versace campaign since the company was launched in 1978, I'm getting out of breath, and hired fashion darling Steven Measle. By the way, this is my favorite photo from Avedon. Great photographer. In an interview with Newsweek, Donatella said, "I had two choices. One was to take the work of Gianni and update it. The second was to take the collection further." Dana, the writer of this article, suggested Donatella chose the latter. The article also stated that her drug addiction had gotten worse and she became more short-tempered, blowing up at assistant, doing last-minute changes that were costly. Her employee feared her and avoided her in the office. We're not going to touch upon Donatella's personal life though, but it should be acknowledged. I found a Vogue article and stated that Donatella has been using drugs for the last 18 years, and the article was in 2005. Do a quick math on the screen, editor Makasy. So we can sort of excuse the drug habit for the erratic creative choices and erratic personal choices, but she did great work while on those drugs too, so I don't think we can solely blame it on the drug. The power she once had was taken away from her solely by Erosion and also Gianni when he was back in charge from his health problem. By the way, I referenced Erosion too early. The lifestyle, the mansion, the house at Lake Como, a lot of assets were sold to keep company afloat during the hard time of Versace. We will get to that in a moment. After Gianni's death, they were hit with a giant inheritance tax bill. To pay it, they received a 5-year, $100 million bond issued by Morgan Stanley. When the earning was down, the lifestyle didn't. In 2000, to raise some capital, they sold off a lot of stuff that Gianni had bought, including the Miami mansion. The company posted a $7.1 billion loss in 2002. And then in 2003, they hired Fabio Massimino Cacciatore. Again, mispronouncing your name, my apologies. He left months after though, because he was rubbing the Versace family the wrong way. Again, the three Versace owns 100% of the company. 2003, an article by WWE staff stated, "The state of Versace business has generated considerable local press. In June, Santos Versace, president and co-chairman of his family company, threatened to sue Weekly Magazine to Mondo over an article stating that the auditors were concerned with the company's book and its ability to pay back the 100 million euro bond that will be expired in July 2004. Versace claimed the report was false. Friday, however, it did confirm it is seeking a fresh bank loan to help pay back the bond. Donatella drug problem were getting bad. Elton John, a friend of the house, sent her to rehab in 2004. WWD, August 2004. Versace named former Fendi and IT holding high-level executive John Carlos DeRizio as CEO. A time of peace. DeRizio actually played a big role, so let's talk about it. By the way, I didn't want to pay for the WSJ to read this article at first, so I found other sources essentially quoted them, but then I found archive.ph and I was able to read the article. I will never pay for a newspaper article. I don't even pay to watch UFC or any movie. I refuse to do that when there are so many websites. Get fucked, WSJ. Love your content though, but it's not 1950 anymore. We're not paying to read the news. Just sell us advertising when we're on the page. When Versace recruited Mr. DeRizio from LVMH Fendi label in the summer of 2004, the house was saddled with more than 146 million in debt and heading to a net loss of 124 million for the year on revenue of 416 million. High-end retailer like Bergdorf Goodman had stopped carrying the brand. This quote gives a better understanding as to why there were so many CEO in short times. Bergdorf chief executive Jim Gold recalled that Versace was distributing too widely, diluting its exclusivity, and was overly consumed with making a splash on the runway. But many labels had started delivering retail fresh design more frequently ahead of their runway collections. Versace resisted. I agree with Mr. Gold here. DeRizio wanted Versace to focus on accessories and other leather goods because it had better shelf life and better profit margin. This is why LV was able to be so successful before Virgil. The clothes were not selling well, but the runway for LV was and has always been about the bags and accessories. The clothes were kind of just there so they can show it on TV without, naked women. If they could, they would have. Mr. DeRizio homed in on the company's shoes and handbags, which have higher profit margin because they cost less to produce than clothes, but are easier to sell to a wide array of customers. Last year, more than 30% of Versace's 383 million in revenue comes from accessories, compared with the 4% when Mr. DeRizio arrived. I wanted this quote here to show that DeRizio is a smart businessman and that his strategies were working. However, though DeRizio still had to convince the three Versaces to go with their plan because they do control 100% of the assets, Donatella wanted to restart the old couture line runway. DeRizio said no and said they should only show it to individual clients, people that will buy. My belief, Donatella wanted a big party. Runway often has after party and whatnot, and she likes the luxury of life. I don't blame her. Hosting a runway and show and party with celebrity though, it's costly. DeRizio saw that and said no. And then here's a quote I found. I said to DeRizio, this is not going to work. This is going to die, recalled Mr. Versace. But she said I was wrong and he was right. We sell more now. Donatella was proven wrong, so she went along with DeRizio for now. Versace gets most of its airtime when they dress celebrities on red carpet, which is great for those amazing dresses. DeRizio limited that as well. In 2006, they dressed Hilary Swank, Uma Thurman, Salma Hayek, Catherine Reed Ullman. In 2007, they only dressed Penelope Cruz. After Donatella toned down her looks a bit, Goodman carried her design again. DeRizio's strategy were working once again. On the financial side, Mr. DeRizio has untangled the company's assets from those of the family, selling property he deemed non-strategic to pay the company's debts. The family's Manhattan townhouse was sold for about $35 million, and its content went up for auction in 2005. The painting alone, including work by artists such as Andy Warhol, John Michael Basquiat, Roy Lichtenstein, and Julian Schnabel, fetched more than $11 million. My apology. This is the problem with family business. Personal expenses are charged on business expenses or business credit card. Mr. DeRizio also opened stores in China, so that helped greatly at the time. China wasn't that rich yet or wasn't that big of a player in the high fashion consumer, at least not to the level it is now. So, that was great of DeRizio to see that. By 2006, Mr. DeRizio's strategy had returned the fashion house to profitability, posting earnings of $19 million or $26.3 million. Versace profit has slipped since, however. The fashion house last year reported sales of $336 million and scratched out a net profit of $9 million, down from $13 million a year earlier. So far, DeRizio's strategy were working, so the three Versace, they listened, and then profit fell again, and then the cost carding started to put DeRizio and the three Versace against each other. Should be noted, in 2008, the recession put a big dent in the economy, so DeRizio had to be more intense with his cost carding, and he was veering further down the creative side, which Donatella did not like. DeRizio recently butted head with Donatella over her choice of photographer Mario Testino, who charged a minimum of $140,000 a day for a recent ad campaign. Reuters 2009, Versace CEO Derizio resigned. From the same article, a great quote, we'll read it together. Mr. Derizio and Mr. Versace, both 53 years old, have been at odds for months over how to reduce costs for such items as promotional events and parties, according to a person familiar with the matter. Versace over-reliance on advertising, celebrities, party, opulence, which is what Versace is known for, but you can't do that when you have money problem and the recession was hitting. Even in good time, the question of how much to spend on public events and advertising campaign is a source of tension between executives who want to control costs and designers eager to generate buzz. With the global downturn crippling profits, CEO are under even more pressure. It's going to be a fine balance for CEO to balance budgets while maintaining the public face of the company and its exposure that it costs, said Robert Burke, a luxury industry consultant, again by WSJ. 2004, Hadley Freeman wrote an article for The Guardian titled "Plunging Sale Matches the Necklines as Versace struggled to regain its touch." A quote I want to share is by Alexander Schulman, editor of Vogue, said, "In terms of fashion credibility, the label has certainly slipped. Donatella is probably not as skilled a fashion designer as her brother was. She never was a designer, and you can't just become a designer overnight." 2009, the same article I shared earlier. You might say, well, maybe the shift in attitude of Versace is recent, so I look for an article from 2009. Now, this is after Derizio turned the company around and then the recession hit. Don't get too lost in the sauce. I'm just a random dude on the internet. If I got something wrong, my apologies. Don't sue me, Versace. Don't sue me, any of these sources. I don't have any money. Donatella Versace, tiny, sculpted, and forever blonde, was standing backstage after her menswear show at the Teatro Versace in Milan in June, receiving polite congratulations from a handful of editors and friends. The scene was positively dead compared with Versace shows a decade ago. No celebrities posing with Donatella for paparazzis, no bodyguard holding back the throngs, and no pal swindling champagne. Donatella's brother Santo, in his usual charcoal suit with black turtleneck, came back for a few minutes to shake some hands. Her husband, American-born Paul Beck, tall and tan, stood alone in the corner. No one even noticed him. That was kind of a jab they didn't need to do. Dana, come on. It all felt feeble, pathetic, a sad, soulless charade to promote something that no longer exists. This article also touched upon other great topics, so we're going to pull some more quotes, Gianni design, short, tight, and shiny, inspired, he said, by Italian hookers, shocked the I don't know how to pronounce that word, Italian fashion establishment, but quickly became a hit with the nightclub scene. And though fashion editor and retailer personally found Versace's silver metal mesh mini dress and black leather microskirt to be vulgar, they were the absolute antithesis of Armani quiet chic and Valentino restrained elegance. They look fantastic in store windows and magazine pages. In a matter of a few seasons, Versace made tacky not only acceptable but enviable. The first year's sale were approximately 15 million. Within 10 years, they reached 353 million. In 1996, Versace tapped the $1 billion mark, with approximately half the revenue coming via license and 8% sale coming from outside of Italy. This quote actually taught me a few things about Versace, so I felt it was necessary to share. Market Watch by Manuela Mesco. Italian fashion house Gianni Versace S.p.A. has reached an agreement to sell 20% stake to private equity fund Blackstone LP in a deal that valued the maison at $1 billion, €1 billion, so $1.3 billion US. Blackstone also promised $150 million of fresh capital. Blackstone is an alternative investment management company, which is another word for bitches who buy shit when they see an opportunity to make more bread or invest in a struggling company, buy low, inject some of their evil money, use their connection, make it profitable, make more money. An oversimplification of bitches. The Guardian, Rupert Nietzsche, my apology if I pronounce your name wrong, September 2008. Versace has been sold to U.S. clothing and handbag group Michael Kors for $2.1 billion, 1.6 billion pounds, in the latest example of a family-owned European brand taking under control of a global fashion conglomerate. According to this article, they changed their name from Michael Kors Conglomerate to Capri Holding Limited after their favorite holiday island. If you needed one more reason to hate Michael Kors, I just gave you 10. This article also clarified who share Blackstone bought. As stated earlier, Allegra owned 50%, now she owns 40%. Donatella now owns 16, down from 20, and Santa owned 24, down from 30. Now should be a good time to note that John Idol is the main man behind Capri Holding, not Michael Kors himself. And now, 2025, Donatella is ousted from the brand. A quote I want to tackle. Donatella is the only thing that drew anyone to Versace, said an NY-based fashion insider. They are trying to scapegoat her for all the issues when anybody on the insider knows that this came down to poor management. It all culminated in the announcement this week that Donatella would step down as lead designer to become chief brand ambassador, while Miu Miu Dario Vitale is joining as creative director on April 1st. Sure, poor management played a role, but Derizio did a great job for a good amount of years and then clashed with Donatella and then back to struggling. Donatella isn't being scapegoated. She is one of the main sources of the terrible numbers on the business side of Versace. We can blame the power, the drug, and blah, 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 but if the clothes are good, if the product are good, people will buy. Since Donatella sold the brand to Capri Holdings, she can't use her family name that she may want to launch. She can't design clothes for another company, according to the same article. After the Michael Kors purchase, Emmanuel Ginsberger was brought in as CEO. Here's a quote I want to say. This is what John Idol said. The brand has a much bigger name than its annual sale. That's created a huge potential for us. Confirmed that Capri bought it because it had negotiating power to buy for a lot cheaper since they're struggling financially. Italian execs referred to Idol as American cowboy, according to the Wall Street Journal, while reported that he wanted clothes that were more Palm Beach than South Beach. While the brand was known for its longtime Medusa logo, created by Gianni himself, Idol is set to push Donatella to create a Versace monogram similar to Michael Kors MK, Louis Vuitton LV, and Chanel interlocking C's. A geometric Greca pattern was added to everything from handbag to coat, shirt, and dresses. I don't see nothing wrong with Idol here at all. Almost every brand has a monogram. Medusa, it's nice and all, but you need a monogram. Speaking at a Vogue event in February, the day before her now last fashion show, Donatella said, being told what to do, being told what's going to sell. If you try to please too many people, too many managers, creativity is gone. I'm sorry, but there hasn't been anything creative happening in a long, long time. If you look at the collection from 2004 to like in the 80s and 90s, practically the same. Capri Holdings was trying to do a merger with Tapestry and Versace, blah, 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 for $8.5 billion, but the deal was killed in an antitrust battle. The entire company, including Michael Kors and the Jimmy Choo shoe brand, is now valued at roughly $2.3 billion, only slightly more than what Capri had paid for Versace, according to the Wall Street Journal. When the Tapestry deal fell through, it was a huge blow for Idol, said a well-placed fashion insider. I think that Capri thought if the deal went through, everyone would get rich and Donatella would be someone else's problem. This shows how difficult Donatella is to work with. I dislike these private equity firms as much as the next guy, but there is a reason why Versace was for sale. If something was doing well financially, it would not be for sale. At the moment, Prada is looking to buy Versace. A deal with Prada will reportedly now on the table and would bring Versace brand back under Italian ownership. Although during Italian Fashion Week this month, Mr. Prada said that Versace deal was on everyone's table. According to The Guardian by Jasper Jolly, Prada is looking to buy Versace €1.2 billion. Capri Holding is selling Versace for a loss. Let's not get into inflation and all that. Let's say it's a flat number, 0.8 or 0.9 billion off of the original price tag. I think it's a foregone conclusion that Prada will buy it. Dario Vitale is already there. He worked at Miu Miu. One more article, Daily Mail by Alyssa Guzman. His Idol vision to make the Versace a bigger statement of women's fashion by toning down the pieces to neutral color like brown and black and ditching the brand bold print clashed with Donatella and her brother and founder Gianni's style. And it's reportedly rubbed Donatella the wrong way. Of course it did. Donatella is stuck in the 1980s. Now the pro would be Donatella loved her brother and wanted to continue his legacy, but you can shift a bit, It doesn't have to be a one-to-one replica. By this logic, LV should only be making trunks. Falk LePage should continue to make firearms. So when Donatella met Idol in 2008, despite the business not being for sale, the designer saw the appeal of having a company help bankroll them. I want to apologize for my early statement. Versace wasn't for sale, but Donatella probably saw LVMH carrying Prada OTB, and she felt, with the backing, that they could be bigger. Okay, a couple more quotes that I want. So, from his Manhattan office and during frequent trip to Milan, the Capri chief weighed in on detail large and small. He issued directive to remove men's silk short from mannequins in Versace store windows, saying the looks was too flamboyant. He looked for alternative to its signature Medusa logo. I agree with Idol here right now. High fashion is sophisticated. One day the brash nature will return, but not at this moment. A lot of high fashion brands are dying or struggling because of the slowdown in high fashion. Hermes is one of the few that is doing well, and you're not seeing something that flamboyant on their windows. Donatella respected Idol's business acumen, but felt he undermined her design work. She shielded away from direct confrontation and would excuse herself from meetings. Some of the people said she tried to deliver what the Capri chief wanted, but when some of his idea fell flat with customers, she would revert to more traditional Versace looks. The outcome was a series of flip-flops that created confusion about what the brand stands for. There's this word that I hate, synergy. It's often being used in corporate world, but synergy would have been really good here. If you look at fall/winter 2004, we see that this is Idol's Versace. The very next season, spring/summer 25, we see color, we see gold, we see nightclub dresses again. Versace, you are not Jun Takahashi. You cannot flip-flop season after season. After the fall/winter show in 2023, Idol was quickly to call the show a success after it debuted a lot of black outfits. The brand existing customer revolted, and it didn't attract enough new ones. For the 9 months months through December 28th, Versace sales dropped nearly 20% to 613 million. So then Donatella was proven right that she went back to leopard, baroque, brass print, and logo. No sides were in the right or wrong completely. The shift was too fast and the shift never stopped. And since there are so many brands available for consumer to choose from, Versace suffered greatly from this fight between Idol and Donatella. What worked against Idol was the slowdown in the high fashion scene overall and the shift in aesthetic. He was able to turn Michael Kors into 4.7 billion sales at its peak in the fiscal year that ended in April 2016. He promised a Versace executive that he wasn't going to Michael Kors Versace, so he was kind of stuck in the middle with his strategies. Donatella design never improved, so while sales of Idol's version of Versace was bad, sales of Donatella Versace hasn't been good either. If it were, they would have never been bought by Capri in the first place. I hope this timeline helped you guys understand the position that Versace is in today a bit better. I mainly put the failure of Versace on Donatella. Prada will most likely buy it. They could make the brand better. They got a bigger budget. Think Ramova. LVMH reel in the distribution. They stood strong against the initial slump in the sale after taking the selling point in-house. Dario could turn around design-wise. Did a great job at Miu Miu. Capri Holding fucked up their strategy with Versace and are now paying for it. The initial video was something different. I was going to talk about how Versace should have been like Hermes or Chanel, you know, two family-owned brands that are doing well. But the timeline came out after I started researching into the topic. I'm not too happy with the structure of the video, but I did my best. I did the best I could, mainly because this is a one-off video. I don't believe this knowledge of the House of Versace will be useful to me in future videos, so I don't really care that much. If Rick Owens were to go through something like this, I would care more. Again, I'm not a journalist, just a kid making a video. Please don't sue me. Goodbye.